Welcome back to all my listeners. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening to my little podcast. Those 15 minutes of your day. I'm so thankful for those, and I hope they bring you a smile, some joy, maybe some hope. This is episode 194. Life is unfair. Starting with a quote by one of my favorite writers, Barbara Kingsolver. Don't try to make life a mathematics problem with yourself in the center and everything coming out equal. When you're good, bad things can still happen. And if you're bad, you can still be lucky. Life is unfair. Have you used this sentence before? Or something similar? What happened to me is unfair. You are unfair. This is not fair. I know I have. And just recently, I wrote it to someone during a texting exchange, and it made me pause and think, why am I saying this? The sentence struck me as something a younger version of myself would have said. Upset at the injustice in the world, frustrated with life, which doesn't look like it will amount to anything for me, and unhappy with the people around me that don't seem to understand me. Life is unfair. Yes, I think when I was younger I not only said this often, but also believed it. But this is where I stopped. I never questioned my assumption. Instead, I adopted it as a belief. And so many people say it, so it must be true, right? But the other day, when I found myself typing it, I paused and thought about it. Where is this coming from? I haven't used it in a while, and I didn't like the sound of it all of a sudden. It sounded so absolute, so discouraging. So I questioned myself, and I immediately noticed that something else is going on. What I found was this. Life is unfair is a feeling that comes from deep inside. For me, it came accompanied by frustration, some anger, and also some hopelessness. It wasn't really what I believed in that moment. I hadn't thought about all the different ways life is actually unfair, because there's no way I can be the judge of life overall. And based on what standard? Fairness is a perception, and my perception of fair is different from yours. So when I say life is unfair, then I could possibly only mean my life. But even that, I didn't really believe in that very moment. Rather, it was a way to express what I felt. And it wasn't good. But I couldn't find any better way to say it. And instead of saying, I don't like how I feel at this moment, I generalized my life, everyone's life, and I announced, life is unfair. Life is unfair is a dead end. I had come to a halt. I didn't know where else to go. I was out of answers and out of questions. I had arrived at a point of exasperation, a dead end. I declared victim status. Unfair treatment, unjust circumstances, the world against me. Instead of looking for another path, I slammed the brakes and I called it quits. I had entered a state of resistance. Someone changed something here, and I'm not moving until that happens. Life is unfair is a lazy outcry. It's the assumption that life happens to me instead of for me. So I throw my arms up, I blame others, and I'm unwilling to take responsibility. Is this really my response to difficult life circumstances? It reminded me of my younger days. That's when I chose to respond this way, on many occasions. But not anymore. I know better than that. I'm grown, and I know that there are consequences to the choices I make. I also know that I played a part in almost everything that is happening to me. Not only can I find a better response than life is unfair, but I can also find a better state of mind next time this feeling hits me again. And so can you, if this also happens to you. Realize that while you cannot always control the things that happen to you, you can always control how you react to them. Life is unfair is temporary. Either someone, in my case the receiver of my text message, will set you straight, or you will realize it on your own, like I did later as well after analyzing my behavior. The helpless feeling is momentary. Reason will set in. In fact, the statement is so irrational that it will cry out to you to realize this. Keep asking, why me? And you will notice that nobody answers. And then you will realize, if I keep going, I will only perpetuate this negative experience and the pain associated with it, and I will be stuck forever. So trust that you will wake up sooner or later. You will realize that this is not a permanent state of being, and you'll find a way to move on. And maybe, only maybe, you then realize that life is unfair is really a teaching moment. As this quote by David Foster Wallace goes, try to learn to let what is unfair teach you. You're holding a mirror to your face and you ask yourself, who am I and what am I doing? We all arrive at dead ends from time to time. We all cry out in fury at the injustice that we perceive is happening to us. But when nobody has a reasonable answer to this unreasonable question, we have a chance to look inward and find out what is calling from within. What is life trying to tell me? That it is unfair? Highly unproductive response, don't you think? Instead, pause and consider that this very moment is an opportunity to make a turn, a change, to take a different approach, move in a different direction, or to simply stand up for yourself and for others. In the end, you have no other option. Sitting in your car until someone comes and opens the road and removes the obstacles and paves the way for you, this would be an easy path through life, not necessarily a fair one, but it would also limit your potential for a more powerful and meaningful life, because you haven't done or learned anything. So, life is unfair is really just a question. Where will I go next? Where to from here? It's a point of growth. Remember, as Paulo Coelho says, don't allow your wounds to transform you into someone you're not. When life is unfair, ask what's next and move on. Much love.